We'll now have a discussion that will begin with the presenters. We have about 15 or less minutes, and in that time it would be great to hear what your comments are for each other. You've dealt with power in sort of the politics of sociality, of sexuality. You've dealt with the epistemic violence and all sorts of forms of materialized structural power. And I'm wondering if you have any questions or comments for each other at this time. There are so many intersections, so many, kind of continuities, but also differences in the ways that you've approached this and in the situations from which you've come. Would anyone like to start with a comment or question for each other? So are you still, I know sometimes when one is speaking, you're still sort of digesting what each other might be saying. Is that the case here? Okay, so
je veux bien
excuse me?
Je veux bien tenter, Paola, si tu...
Oui, vas-y, ok.
Je peux faire en français?
Oui, oui. Et puis après, on va traduire.
Ok, parfait. Bah, alors, ce que j'ai noté, c'est que je dirais 3 axes de discussion que je trouve très intéressants. C'était vraiment passionnant et inspirant, ce que j'ai entendu, et ça donne ça ouvre beaucoup de perspectives pour imaginer d'autres mondes possibles, et quel type de lecture on pourrait produire pour des lectures qui conduisent à justement imaginer d'autres mondes possibles. Et j'ai trouvé ça vraiment passionnant d'essayer de penser le pouvoir depuis des positionnalités qui sont à partir desquelles on ne pense pas forcément, comme c'était le cas pour Elisabeth. Et du coup, ça, c'est la première chose. La deuxième chose, c'est que c'est très intéressant d'entendre ça me fait du bien d'entendre ces communications à la première personne du singulier. On n'a pas l'habitude en France de ce type d'écriture, et c'est quelque chose qu'on essaye de faire au sein de la revue Assiégée, et qu'il est presque impossible de pratiquer au sein de l'université en France. Et du coup, ça me fait toujours comme un vertige, mais en même temps, c'est très agréable, c'est un vertige très agréable. Et en France, ce qui rend d'autant plus difficile de se prononcer comme ça à la première personne, j'imagine, quand on est queer non blanc, c'est aussi que nos récits sont hyper individualisés et du coup dissociés du nous communautaire. Et du coup, dire je, ça devient très difficile, et ça peut constituer parfois un piège. Mais en même temps, là, ça m'a fait du bien d'entendre ces lectures très radicales et qui partent de cette première personne. Et
Milad, sorry, désolé. Il faudra que Paola te traduise ou quelqu'un te traduise.
Okay, I'll start, and then we'll have the third axis in a minute. But to begin with, Milad was telling us that they found that there are three inspiring axes here, and that there are many different kinds of perspectives for imagining other worlds and for imagining the future, and that it's important to think of power in our situated way. That one of the main things here is that all the panelists thought about relations of power in a situated and concrete manner. That was axis number one, that it's not just sort of overall power, but beginning with the very local, beginning with how one is situated. And then secondly, Milad was saying how it does a world of good to hear the first person singular, because in France it's practically prohibited. It's very uncommon, and that we're trying to do it in Assiégée, in the journal that Milad is an editor of, but that these narratives also bring almost a kind of vertigo because they're so uncommon. And now the third axis, if you'd like.
Oui,
Le
et
troisième, si tu veux bien.
troisième accès, désolé Paola, mais tu as très bien résumé.
Aucun problème. J'aurais dû t'arrêter, mais en fait, je prenais des notes. C'est pour ça que je t'avais pas arrêté.
Et le troisième, c'est assez rapide. Je pense que c'est le rapport aux institutions, puisque Diren en parlait à un moment. Je pense que j'aurais bien aimé entendre plus parler de ça. Et aussi, Elisabeth parlait comment son travail était fondé sur des intuitions, peut-être aussi avec humilité, mais je trouvais ça intéressant de savoir comment nos travaux, comment on se positionne, voilà, par rapport aux institutions. Et du coup, voilà, c'était les axes de discussion.
Merci beaucoup, Milad. And so the third axis is the relation to institutions, and Milad highlighted that Diren spoke of institutions and may have something more to add to that. And also that Elizabeth spoke of how her work is founded on intuition, and that is extremely important as well in this discussion. Miriam, hello. Did you have something to add?
And everyone.
Hello, Miriam.
May I do my question? Yes.
Well, actually, we were not going to have audience questions. I'm so sorry.
Okay, excuse me.
That's okay. I'm so sorry. We're going to have them among the panelists. I'm so sorry. We should have announced that again today. We did announce it the first day. Thank you for being here, Miriam. Miriam is coming to us from Florianopolis in Brazil, and we're delighted that you're here. So do any of the panelists want to address Milad's 3 axes, or any of them?
Hi, thank you so much. I just want to respond through a poem by a Dalit woman from Tamil Nadu. It was originally written in Tamil but translated into English. It's not my poem, but I think it suits very well here when you're talking about the way in which we are here trying to create new worlds and newer forms of imaginations to do politics. Solidarity is coming together despite the fact that we are situated in such diverse places, thinking about histories and lives from the context that we are coming from. And as I said, in my rent, it was not a talk, it was not a paper, it was a rent, and I'm very proud that it was, to not fall into the extremes that we are often pushed into, extremes of either martyrdom or heroic sacrifice that you are asked to perform, or read as like, you are being co-opted easily within right-wing politics. So where is the space in between to imagine our lives in the way in which much beautiful, complex ways that we have come to honor and live. So I'm going to just read this poem because I feel I always draw a lot of power through this poem. So in India, villages have a particular morphology. So communities are located according to access to resources. So lower caste people would always be at the outskirts of the village. They would be always situated the outside of the village. So this poem is by a Dalit women trying to argue on that question and also trying to give us an epistemological breakthrough of thinking about life and our stories. As said, we need to think through our eye, and eye is a powerful tool. We can think from our own lives, and they are beautiful, powerful stories. In their minds, I, who smell faintly of meat. In their minds, I, who smell faintly of meat, my house, where bones hang stripped entirely of flesh. And my street, where young men wander without restraint, making loud music from coconut shell strung with skin, are all at the farthest point of our town. But I keep assuring them we stand at the forefront. The poet tries to tell us that, in the way in which the power is located, they think we are at the margins. We have been pushed into the margins and we are supposed to be there forever. But we want to say that probably the lives in the world start from where we are. The cities start from where we are located, not that we are outside the end of the city. So I think to think about our complex lives and the beauty of those lives from thinking and holding that power in our hands and saying that we are here. If we have come to own that slogan, we are here, we are queer, and we are nowhere to go. We are here, we are queer in all of our vibrant colors and all of our differences. And despite the fact you might say QTPOC and persons of color might flatten out a lot of differences that might exist within, we are simultaneously trying to, here at least in this decolonial cafe, celebrate those differences and try to see how those can also be confrontational and create better, more nuanced ways of decolonizing rather than just thinking in one way or the other that we have come to think about imperialism and colonialism. I think I have spoken too much, sorry.
You've not spoken too much. Thank you so much.
I can, thank you for the questions, Milad. I can speak a little bit to the point on intuition. Et je vais le faire en français, pourquoi pas. Oui, parce que en étant une personne danoise, noire, mais je fais mon projet aux États-Unis et en fait, là maintenant, je suis au Danemark et je remarque comment mes collègues et mes amis sont disciplinés à l'université. Et en fait, je reconnais qu'aux États-Unis, malgré tout, j'ai quand même beaucoup plus de flexibilité en fait, en tant que, oui, être interdisciplinaire et aussi en étudiant les féminismes noirs américaines, là, il y a beaucoup de limités pour moi, mais il y a aussi des possibilités. Et là, il y a une invitation à mobiliser les émotions, juste à sentir. Et ça, c'est assez radical. Et là, je vois comment moi, j'ai internalisé un positivisme, en fait. Donc, je discipline ma propre pensée. Et le fait de dire, oui, moi, j'ai un besoin ou je veux quelque chose, ça fait peur. Et en fait, c'est la première fois que je parlais de ces choses-là. Et oui, et donc je reconnais les différences, en fait. Et ce n'est pas pour romantiser les États-Unis, bien sûr, mais c'est vrai que en ce moment en Europe, parce que j'ai vécu un peu en France, à Paris, et ici au Danemark, en ce moment, il y a un mouvement contre les métiers critiques ou ce qu'on fait ici. Et il y a quelque chose pareil, les politiciens qui essayent de fermer en fait le soutien financier à ce qu'on fait. Donc, moi, j'ai aussi une liberté par rapport à mes amis qui dépendent des institutions ici. Moi, je peux m'exprimer un peu plus librement parce que de toute façon, je appartiens à une autre université dans un autre pays. Yeah, and I guess I can translate myself. So I just wanted to speak to this part about intuition and how I have a flexibility as a Danish person, but I'm never recognized as Danish here, but a Black Danish person who does this project in the United States, and how there is a little more flexibility in terms of being interdisciplinary and how we are allowed to mix ways of theorizing. And so having been indulged in Black feminisms, meaning US American Black feminisms, I've encountered limits and also possibilities, and this invitation to just feel something, to connect with our emotions, like Alexander talks about that, or Audre Lorde talks about that. Many people, invites us to be human and which feels scary and radical. And I realize how I have internalized positivism, and I discipline myself so that I will try to formulate myself in generalizable scientific ways rather than speaking from some authentic place. Yeah, so I think that it feels super scary, and so I wanted to speak to that. I'm scared too. I just try anyway.
Okay. I want to thank you all for your talks and also for this lovely conversation at the